When I was younger and I first got into this business, I used to think that organ donation was about giving a gift of life to somebody else. And I never really thought about it before, and I thought that's such a noble calling. But the truth is that a lot of times people who are grieving, they don't want to hear about somebody else. They feel broken. And I started to think that maybe there was a different message that was more important to them. And I had this epiphany one time. I was at this meeting, and I was the person who was chairing the meeting. And as the chairperson, what we're supposed to do is to reach out to the vendors to let them know how important they are in supporting the meeting. So during the break, I took some time and I went and introduced myself to each vendor. And toward the end, I was at this booth, and this guy was standing in front of his booth that was advocating for this drug that is used to treat alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, which is a cause of emphysema that can lead to end-stage lung disease. And so I was talking to him, and I walked up to him and said, "Hey, my name is Ben deBoisblanc, I'm the chairperson." He says, "Oh, my name's Len Geiger, nice to meet you." I said, "Well, tell me a little bit about this drug, Len." And so we spent a few minutes kind of talking, and I was getting fidgety. It was kind of toward the end of the day, and we talked a few minutes, and I kept looking at my watch, and it was a nervous habit, I guess, and I sort of caught me looking at my watch, and he says, "Oh, you got to go?" I said, "Yeah, it's kind of getting late in the day," and I was hoping to go for a run before the end of the day, before dinner tonight. He goes, "Oh, you're a runner?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a runner. I like to do a few races, do this, that." And he says, "Oh, I'm a runner too." "Oh, that's cool." So he takes out his wallet and he starts flipping through pictures in his wallet. And he goes, "Oh, and this was Azalea Trail, and oh, this was a different Jackson Day race." I go, "Oh, that's really cool." And in every picture, he's crossing the finish line. He's holding the hand of a guy about his age. And I didn't know Len, so I figured this might be his partner or something. So I just was talking to him. I said, "Len, who's the guy in all the pictures?" He goes, "Oh, that's my donor's father." "Your donor's father?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I'm the recipient of a double lung transplant. I had alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency." I go, "Holy cow." And he says, "Yeah, and I was in rehab after my transplant, and I started doing a little running, and I figured, that was probably the best way to recover." And I said, "Well, wait a minute, Len. This guy's about your same age." And he says, "Oh yeah, my donor was a 12-year-old girl." I said, "What?" I said, "What happened to her?" "She took her dad's gun and put a bullet through her brain." And this is the guy in the pictures. And he said, "Man, I felt really guilty at first. I was given the gift of life because of his tragedy." And so I wanted to reach out to him, and I didn't know what to say and what to do. And finally, I asked my organ procurement association, "Can you put me in touch with the father of my donor?" Because Len had heard the story, and they said, "Okay." So they reached out to him, and Kevin was a little reluctant at first, but he said, "Sure, I'd like to meet him." And so they met, And you can imagine that the conversation was a little awkward at first. And they started sharing a little bit, and Len was telling him how he was coming along with his recovery and said he'd been running. And Kevin asked, is it okay if I start running with you? Might be good for me. So Len said, sure. They started jogging together, and the next thing you know, they're doing these races, and they're raising awareness for organ donation. And Len says, and everything was just going great. It was really cool that I had been able to connect with my donor's family. He said, it was just one part that kind of creeped me out. And I said, well, what was that, Len? He said, well, you know, I was a straight guy, and I was, you know, we are just like to have a little bit of space between us. And he was this man that was, as we would run, he was always on top of me. He was always touching me. He was always in my space. And I just couldn't figure it out. And I finally had to say, I said, Kevin, you know, you've done this, you've given me this miracle. You've given me the gift of life. I've been able to have a family because of you. Through your tragedy, I have been given life. He says, but, you know, why is it you're always on top of me? And Kevin turned to him, with tears in his eyes, and he said, I just like to hear my daughter breathing. And that's when I recognized that organ donation is not just about giving the gift of life to somebody else. It's about feeling like some part of something that you love lives on. And so that's, you know, when people ask me, that's the message I give them, is that some part of something you love can live on.